Hello, hello! Welcome to this video. I have the brand new box of the Krieg command squad, and if you followed some of the recent stuff, you know how much I love the new Krieg models and the new riders, and I'm very deeply into this project right now. So I'm very grateful for receiving the box a little bit up front. Thanks a lot to Warhammer Official. And I have assembled some of the models, primed them, and did a jungle base. And today I want to show you something that I haven't seen before, and I believe that I came up with this all by myself. And it's all around this product, the rust paint that we all love. We are using this in order to tint all the surrounding areas to create a color variety and a little bit of easy glazing. So it's a rather beginner-friendly method. If you're struggling with non-metallic, this is giving you like a magic punch. So I stumbled upon this method by an accident, and I have been experimenting a little bit with it in order to show you what I now call the reactivating non-metallics. So it's very good for rough texture and then tinting the area again into these rust tones. And since we will be working with these bluish tones, they kind of get dragged into a green hue, so you get nice color variety. It's nice for blending since we're just blending with water, and the chemistry and mix of this paint is basically doing the work instead of us. And it's so good that I've decided to do a YouTube video for it. Usually I just post this stuff on Patreon, but I think this is truly something new and truly something that's super joyful to paint, and I just love to share the enthusiasm about what I call like satisfaction while painting. So it's just a method that while you are painting, you already see how it's going to look good, and this is kind of keeping you going, and it's fun while painting. And that's something that I always love to advertise, to say have fun while painting. And usually like non-metallics and glazing and these kind of things can be very time consuming. So I'm always happy to share recipes or kind of shortcuts that help to save time. I hope it's of some help. So let's dive into it. I will show you now the full process of what I call the reactivation non-metallic method. All right, here you can see one of the new peeps I already painted, and I want to focus on the metallic parts. So here on this pistol, you can see how there is a little bit of orange down here in the recesses, but this is kind of the effect we're going for. This is the result I want to concentrate on today's video. It's like a non-metallic, it looks metallic, but has a lot of rust in the recesses. Rusty metal effect, which I think suits the Krieg very well. Let's dive into it, and I will show you and give you the entire process. And by the way, this guy is going to be on Patreon with a full step-by-step PDF tutorial. I'll give you a little preview for all who are interested in supporting, just as a side advertisement, but no pressure. I'm happy to share it here now, since it's just a method that's too much fun to keep for myself. This is also the rider I did, maybe you've seen it on Instagram, that I just recently painted, and I did exactly the same. This is already, the full PDF tutorial is on Patreon, and here you can see the same method. Without further ado, I've teased you enough. Let's go, let's step into it. So we're not going to paint the entire model, just the metallic parts, and we're going to start with a rust over your base coats. I will demonstrate on this model, and I have already prepared this model, so you can see the comparison between drying times. The metallic parts, for example, on the hand, base coating basically with this color. Most important tip, you want to hear that sound, all right? There's a little ball inside. So how I usually do it is I kind of paint out of the tip of the lid with some pure color, put it on the model, and add some water here and there if I'm just going for the rust effect. All right, so straight from the lid right onto the model. I primed it with a brown color and went with a brighter tone over it with the airbrush. So probably if you've primed your model white, the effect won't work as well, since we want kind of brownish tones in the recesses. To keep it simple, base coat it with this color, and in the meantime I can already show you with this guy. This is something I painted yesterday. Basically applied some simple colors here and there, base coats, but the important part is all the rust on the armor. So you can see a little bit how it looks after a base coat. That's exactly the same that I have just done with the other model. And what we are doing now is doing a simple non-metallic over this with a lot of like tiny brush strokes to create some structure and some patterns. Glaze with water over it, and the paint from below is going to reactivate with the water, getting our base coat alive again, and this will mix with the colors that we will be putting on top. All right, that's the plan. So I am starting with anthracite gray, but as a reference, this is basically plus minus the hue, a little bit of water. I'll show you the paint consistency a bit. So this is what we're working with. All right, rather thin. Generally speaking, for the shoulder pads, I'm always trying to keep main focus on the top and leave the bottom how it is, and leave a little bit more of the rusty areas down there. And as you can see, we are working fast and don't care a lot about smoothness. So same for the middle part. I'll try to have one side rather bright, directed to the light source, and keep the other half rather dark. Especially we want like a bright in the part in the middle and a darker one here. So I will kind of start with the brighter side on here and fade it out towards the middle. And on the other half, do it the exact opposite way around to have a nice contrast. It's like little motions, little brush strokes, a lot of structure. It's very rough, same for this thing. There's some water in it, but most of it is like with a dabbing structure. We're just adding patterns, adding little scratches, giving life. All right, that's it. I'll keep it simple for now to just demonstrate it. You got the idea. Not spending too much time on blendings or details, and I'm just adding tiny scratches here and there. I'll do the other shoulder pad because those are like nice and big shapes. It's good to demonstrate it here. There you go. That's it. That's all we will do. I'll step to the next one, which is dark blue gray from AK. All right, same kind of go-to. This is the next color we're working with, and it's just the same as before. Little dots, little scratches, adding patterns, adding texture, but now I'm trying to leave a little bit. As you can see, like I'm not covering as much of the model as before, so I'm trying to leave some of the color that we painted before. So this is already enough for one shoulder pad. Maybe have it fade out a little bit to the outer edges. A little bit on the sword. I'll try to create one point that is brighter than the rest. Do some nice and easy edge highlights. That's a bit too much. That's what we're going for. Texture. It's rough metal. It's not very precise stuff. But it's fun. That's like every time I don't have to concentrate a lot. I enjoy painting a lot. If it's easy, if the paints do their job and not me, then I'm happy while painting because I don't have to pay too much attention. It's chill. I can listen to an audiobook, and that kind of stuff is how I enjoy my painting. It's about where to position the lights, I think, is more important than perfect blends. I love brush strokes. I love seeing brush strokes. All right. So you probably got the idea by now. Here you can already see it because I used some water, what the paint from below is happening. Can you see these subtle paint differences? This is basically the mistake that I found and that we are abusing today. There are no mistakes, obviously, but you know what I mean. Keeping it in Bob Ross mentality, happy little mistakes. Oh, I actually picked a different color on the palette, I just realized, but just another Just another happy mistakes. So this is a little bit more purple. As you can see, I was just using a little bit of water, kind of pushing the pigments around. One last round with blue-gray, which is basically the final highlight. And once again, paint consistency, check. And let's go back to our model. Adding little tiny scratches and dots once more. But this, like the higher the highlight, the less work there is to do. We don't want a lot of this to cover the model. We want some contrast, you know? This is only appearing bright because there's some very dark areas back there. Focusing on the brightest point up there. And that's already it. It's a speed painting thing, basically. Speed painting, scratchy, rusty, activating, non-metallic. Call it whatever you want to. I'm curious what people come up with, but I haven't seen this done before. I mean, you can obviously always glaze with a rusty color on top of it. It's nothing brand new. Like the color concept is very old. Adding a little bit of colors into shadows and that kind of stuff. But the cool thing about this is that the colors naturally blend and you don't have to do a lot of thinking. So I think it's very beginner friendly. That's it. This is already it. Now I've emptied my brush. There's nothing on it. This is just water, and we don't want it to be too thick. Like, we won't be flooding the model now, but this is a lot of fun now. So I'm now going with a water brush onto this, and the water is now activating the paint from below. You can already see it happening here. The paint is loosening and does interesting things. There are interesting patterns now happening, and the highlights up there, they're tinted now. You can see that? There's a little bit of rust tone going into these blues, and on some parts the blues are sticking to the model better, and on others it doesn't, and this is creating this nice natural transition. Down here there's a little rough step. Let's push in some water there, and basically now this isn't water anymore. It's like a little bit of that paint on the brush tinting the white areas or the brighter areas into these tones, which is blending everything together. It's what a glaze is doing too. It's, as mentioned, very easy. Like, you don't have to go to the palette back and forth since you're just doing this with water. So same for the sword now. I'm slowly pushing the colors from back there into the sword, leaving a little bit of the front part untouched to have some actual pure white. Oh yeah, and don't do what I've just done. Don't lick your brush. You don't want this color in your mouth. It's one of the not so good tasting ones. Yeah, can you see that? Can you see what's happening? What's going on? I didn't put a lot of effort into this now, and there's already, like, the blends are a little bit smoother. You can't see the single brush strokes that much. It's fun. It's looking good. It's looking good while you are already painting it, and this is giving a lot of confidence. Like, you don't have to worry about, oh, is it going to turn out like good in the end? You don't have to trust the process so much, since the process is already the win. Just one pass. Not a lot happening there. Down here it seems a little bit too bright, so reactivating it. You can see there in this area it's getting greenish. I like that. Color variety is always great. So down there's a little rough transition, just with water. Reactivating the paint from up there. This one's really rough. This one, I didn't concentrate a lot for this shoulder pad. Probably the worst looking part of all of the things we did. But that's the nice thing about this step. You can correct a little bit. And you can do this, I think, not too many times. I haven't been playing around too much. I'm very curious to see what people come up with and experimenting. and sharing experiences, but it feels a bit dead now, the paint. So I feel like you cannot reactivate it unlimited times, but it's probably fun to experiment also to do the base coat with this rather thick in order to see if then there's more material on the model to work with. And once this is dry now, again, we can go back with some of the metallics, do some highlights on the edges, that kind of stuff, and rework it. But this is plus minus the effect that I wanted to show you. How much time did we spend on this? This is like 10 minutes of work, 5 minutes of work to do all the metallics on a model and get a, I would say, more than decent result. I think it looks very good, very natural, super interesting to look at since we have some reddish hues in the recesses and shadows, and I love it. It's fun painting. That's why I wanted to share this as a fun method. I feel like it feels like a new method since it's reactivating a product, and that's why I wanted to share it. I hope it does help some of you. We can also go on to this model again and have a look, since we just painted this before. The mini we did here had more drying time for the rust color. So let's see how it goes with this one. I assume I did it on the other model. I assume it's easier to activate and therefore also easier to kind of blend the colors into each other. But you have to be more careful and use a little less water since the color is reactivating faster. All right, let's have a look on this one. Same method. Let's start with this one. Same thing. Maybe you can tell I added a tiny bit of purple. I think that is making metallics, especially rusty metallics, always a lot more interesting. Every time I look at rust in real life references or when I'm outside, I always see a little bit of purple in the rusty parts. Try to keep it dark compared to the other one and not highlight it as bright to kind of do some differences, variety, playing around, testing, you know, that kind of stuff. That's already it for the next one. Little dots and scratches, pew pew pew, fast, no precision, fun painting, brush strokes, all the good stuff. I mean, you can spend hours on this, obviously. It's just a demonstration. I think you got the idea by now. Boop, 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 boop. Like a line. Now, ooh, you can see a lot of purple happening in there. All right, rough, very rough, a lot rougher than the other one. Now water, just water. So first I'm dabbing it onto it, kind of activating the paint below. Let's see what happens when we push the tones around now. Fun to look at, huh? I like that. You see that? Is it just me? I love this kind of stuff. While painting, seeing how paints react, how colors interact with each other. This is the enthusiasm that makes me return to the painting desk every day. I just love it. We have the best hobby. My brain is just concentrating on the colors, making me feel good. I'm not thinking about the daily life struggles, but just about power fists. All right. So now we kind of took away a lot of the color. There's not a lot of the highlight left of the original tone, but since we wanted to do something different on this power hand as a comparison, as an experiment, I think it's interesting. Not sure if I like it more than the other one. Probably not, but that's okay. We're learning here. There's a lot of room to play with this. You can use different metallic tones. You can use different colors for the rust in the recesses afterwards. I'm exaggerating, red, blue, contrast kind of thing. But yeah, it's fun to experiment. You can play around with this. There are a lot of interesting parts happening. All of this on the backpack area I think is looking great. This has been zero work. This is, you can see all the rough structure, but since it's metal and it's rusty, it kind of it sells the story. Like this thing is probably too rough. Can spend some time and go in here and kind of blend this rusty colors more into each other. So yeah, think you got the idea. That's what I wanted to share for today. I call it the reactivating non-metallic. Please experiment with it and have some fun painting. I hope it did help you. I will now show a little bit of the new Krieg models. They are all, without question, absolutely wonderful. I'm a huge fan of all the stuff Games Workshop is doing right now. Every time they release something, I'm just going like, oh damn, I want to paint that, I want to paint that, I want to paint that. So it's a lot of good stuff, and these models are no exception. I mean, this dude it's the first one I painted. Ripped up the package of the new box and immediately painting this guy is giving me such a grim dark vibe. I really like this guy. I'll be adding a little bit of like beauty shots of the entire squad now. Enjoy. Thanks for your attention. I hope it helps. If you want to learn more stuff, I'm doing most of my work on Patreon. I will link it below. Feel free to join on Patreon, and otherwise just like and subscribe. That also helps a lot. And see you next time. Happy painting. Enjoy yourself.